I'm a certified parenting coach and head coach of HIC Parenting Education Agency, and I've coached 14,151 parents break free from reactivity, from yelling, from shutting down, and find peace and become a secure parents and raise secure children. And I'm going to share with you today common traits or common things that I found among all the parents that we've coached in HIC parenting. I'm going to show you the common things that we found that prevent them from being secure parents for their kids and how they went from overwhelmed, reactive, not knowing what to do, feeling powerless, shutting down to becoming the parents they want to be for their kids and raising them with peace and accountability. After this episode, you are going to have full knowledge of what's the missing piece in your parenting, what's the roadblock that has kept you in that reactive zone, and what you need to develop in you, the skill you need to develop in you to be a secure, emotionally regulated parent for your kids. Welcome to another episode of the Parenting with Understanding podcast. This is your host, Marcela Collier, and this is the podcast for parents who want to stop reactivity, want to stop yelling, want to stop spanking, want to stop shutting down, and they want to become secure, emotionally regulated parents for their kids and raise them with peace and accountability. And this podcast episode is going to be what I've seen, what I've learned from all the parents that we've coached in HIC Parenting Education Agency. Before we start, if you've been listening to this Parenting with Understanding podcast for a while and if it has given you any kind of value of good information, aha moments, and even inspiration to change your parenting, to be the parent you want to be, would you share with us a positive review? Just open the description of this podcast episode, scroll down, and write as a 5-star positive review. That will help us get to more parents. So, common trait number one that I've seen that we've discovered among all the parents who come for coaching in HIC parenting, it is that they don't yell because they believe that's a good strategy to get their children to listen, or because they think that's a good discipline technique, or is what they need to do to raise kids. They yell at their kids because they are emotional suppressors. We don't yell at our kids because we are not patient enough or because we're not good enough. It's because we lack emotional regulation skills, and more likely we are suppressing our emotions instead of regulating our emotions. So let's just imagine a parent who is outside and their kids are playing with water guns or water toys, and then this parent is redirecting one of them to not throw out a water toy to the sibling, and then the child is not listening. The child keeps at it, and then the parent's frustration builds up. And let's just say this parent he's been following HIC parenting in social media and other accounts, and they're like, okay, I need to be calm. They're just kids, and then they try to be calm. They try to not get angry, and that alone is not emotional regulation; it's emotional suppression. You are suppressing your emotions. You're not acknowledging them. You're not processing them. You're just stuffing them down, and that takes this parent to yell at the top of her lungs, of his lungs, put the kids inside, and nobody else is playing no more. You guys are grounded for the rest of the afternoon. And the afternoon is ruined, not just for the kids, but for the parent as well. And the parent drowns in guilt, and this guilt transfers to the rest of the day and other activities. And they put the kids to sleep, and then they still feel guilty about yelling when they were playing with their water toys. They didn't yell because they feel that was the right thing to do or that was the appropriate thing. The parents who come to us yell because they cannot take it anymore. And they cannot take it anymore because they're suppressing their emotions, they're not regulating them. Once they come to us, we build the first skill that we develop in coaching is emotional regulation skills. So, what are emotional regulation skills? Is the ability to acknowledge our feelings and live and process our feelings in a safe way. So, a parent who is emotional regulated is not trying to stay calm or not get angry. A parent who knows, who has the skill of emotional regulation, they welcome the anger, they welcome the frustration, they listen to it, and they choose how to live it differently. So let's just say that this parent has emotional regulation skills. And then she feels her frustration and she's like, "Oh, I'm getting frustrated because it's been the second time that I redirected my son to not throw the water balloon at my daughter's face and he's still doing it. What is this frustration telling me? How can I work this frustration in a safe, healthy way? Maybe I could go inside for a little bit, or I could just remove the balloons and have a conversation if I'm able to hold that space for my kids, for myself." So that's the skill of emotional regulation, and it looks different depending on the situation, depending on the parent's needs, depending on how the parent's nervous system responds best when it comes to coping strategies, emotional regulation strategies. This is something that they discover in coaching to stop suppressing their emotions and how their body respond best to keep themselves not regulated, to keep themselves safe while they are working out their dysregulation or their upset moments. Number two trait or thing that I found in parents that we coach in HIC parenting is that they are there's when they come to us, they're stuck on the red zone. They keep reacting and apologizing. Is that you? If that's you, let me know in the comments. React, apologize. You're quick to apologize and repair, and then it happens again. And then it's this cycle of non-ending cycle. And it happens a lot because they project their childhood wounds onto their kids. So let's just say the same example of the water balloons. I see this parent who is projecting childhood wounds onto their kids. She sees her older son throwing water balloons at her daughter's face, and then this trigger of men are not good to women comes in because that's the model that she saw growing up, seeing her parents fighting all the time, etc. So she has a disproportionate yell, a disproportionate reaction towards her son, who is just silly and goofy, not aware of what he was doing, but she was projecting this big thing onto the situation. And that's this what the reactivity is stemming from. Once we move those layers of projection in coaching, they start feeling a lot calmer and able to be present in the moment instead of traveling back memory lane and parenting their children from their childhood wounds. For example, Lena, she used to dread picking up her kids every day from school, and she used to feel guilty for feeling dread of picking up her kids from school, but she just didn't want the struggle. She just didn't want to feel the struggle. So what happened? Once we build the skills, these are mind-size skills, which is the ability of being present and understanding where our children are coming from instead of adding projection to it, the interaction. Once we developed her mind-size skills, She started enjoying parenting. This is her. Let me show you her story real quick. What kind of changes have you seen in your parenting, in yourself, since you enrolled in HIC Parenting?
When I, for example, pick up the kids, right, and there is that like post-school meltdown or like frustration that's happening or whatever, I'm seeing it with a different light, or at least preparing myself a little differently for that. Um, I mean, this is, I don't want to say this, but it's true. I mean, like the last week, even before picking them up, I'm like, all right, I'm excited to see them. Versus usually it would be a matter of like, oh my God, okay, here we go, you know? Um, and so that's a big, big win, you know, because I like these guys.
That was a big win for her. And she was able to go from dreading picking up her kids from school and facing the entire afternoon with them to feeling excited about picking them up once we develop those emotional regulation skills and those mindset skills to move away from projection and stay present with her kids and to regulate her emotions and be safe even during the tough moments. If you're like, Marcela, I want that, I want that. I created a free class where I explain these skills. You can access it right now on my website at hicparenting.com. hicparenting.com. That's our website of HIC Parenting. Or I'm going to leave a card on the top of the screen if you're watching from YouTube, or in the description below if you're watching from YouTube. If you're just listening your podcast episode from your podcast provider, you can open the description of the podcast episode and the link is there. It is free. All you have to give us is your name, email, phone number so we can send it to you. And you can start feeling a lot more peaceful and calm and enjoying your kids instead of dreading being with them. You can get there once you develop emotional regulation and mindset skills. So, thing number 3 that we saw after coaching 14,151 parents, that yelling feels as a temporary release because you release endorphins when you yell, you to be honest, right? Like it's you release endorphins, you release adrenaline. It's a physical nervous system release, but because we know it's damaging, then it's a release that has a really bitter taste at the end of it. So parents who come to us, they they are they want to get out of yelling, they want to get out of reactivity because they don't want to parent that way. They don't want to parent their children with that bitter taste. They're scared that they might be raising kids that may end up having the same relationship that they have with their own parents. So what happens here? This temporary release of energy, it's not because we want to dump our frustration on our kids. It's because we feel powerless. And when we feel powerless, we don't see any other resources but to release on the first person that we find. And if that first person is our kids, then on our kids. That first person is our husbands or wives, etc. We feel powerless because we don't know what else to do, how to discipline them, or how to guide them and correct them effectively. The answer to this is to develop positive discipline skills. So, what are positive discipline skills? Is the ability to set limits and correct our children and have structure in our house in a positive way without the things that we saw growing up. Because we don't want to get there and then we get there. We don't want to get there. We feel overwhelmed and concerned and not wanting to get there, but then we get there anyway. What gets us out of it is the skill of positive discipline. The skill of positive discipline. So my children, I bought them trumpets. I bought them trumpets. They were toy trumpets, cheap toy trumpets from Amazon. And then one of them decided to take his Play-Doh and he started stuffing his trumpet. I told him twice. By doing that, you're going to eventually break your trumpet because you're going to clog it. It's not going to sound the same. The sound is not going to come out. Well, he decided to keep doing it. If I would have gone to the traditional parenting route, I would have taken the trumpet, I would have taken the Play Doh, and then my son would have seen me as the mean mom who takes the trumpet and the Play Doh and would have learned nothing about taking care of his trumpet. So I apply positive discipline. And one main area of positive discipline is natural consequences, which is allowing them to live the natural outcome of their choices. I already told him twice. Now it was his choice because he was fully aware of the consequences. Well, he did it again, and the trumpet didn't sound, and he started tearing up, and then he learned. He learned the hard way, but it was his way, not an imposed way. He learned a lot faster and easier if I would have taken the trumpet and if I would have put the Play-Doh away. If it would have been a more expensive trumpet, maybe I would have done that. But it was a $10 trumpet, or maybe less. A good tool to have them learn the importance of taking care of our things. So he lived the natural consequence of his trumpet not working. His brother had a working trumpet, and now he needed to ask permission to use his brother's trumpet. And sometimes his brother didn't want to share with him, and it's okay because he's his trumpet. So he lived the full spectrum of his natural consequences. He bought his trumpet. He bought a new trumpet, and he took care of it. He took care of it. Not because I imposed a consequence, but because he learned from his natural consequence. So do you see, when we apply positive discipline, we don't have to yell, we don't have to nag, we don't have to snatch things out of our kids' hands. We don't have to do much. Just guide our kids. Let them see what happens if they make bad choices. And many times letting them leave bad choices if it's safe. There are some bad choices that I would not let them leave, like brushing teeth, non-negotiables, that per se. So that's just a little aspect. It's not all positive discipline. It's just a little aspect of positive discipline. Bottom line, what I'm trying to convey here is that once we have more skills than just the chancla, than just the wooden spoon, than just the belt, than just yelling, we stop yelling because we feel resourced. And that's exactly what happens to our clients in HIC parenting. We don't yell because we want to yell, because we feel powerless, because we don't have emotional regulation skills, or because we are projecting our childhood wounds onto our kids and not being present. Once we learn the art of presence with mindset skills, which is understanding our children's needs beneath their behaviors, once we develop those emotional regulation skills, and once we have more resources and tools with positive discipline skills, we stop yelling because we are more resourced. If this podcast episode gave you like, hey, now I know why I'm yelling. Now I know what to do. I have an idea. Share it with your spouse right now. Share it with your bestie. Send it right now to them. You don't have to send it to a million people. Just send it to the right person right now. Stop what you're doing. Send it to the right person. Say, hey, I think this will really help us. Send it to them and come back next week for another episode of the Parenting with Understanding podcast. I'll see you next time.